What I want to cover in this lesson is dimensioning the floor plan, the walls. The procedure I follow is I do the walls as the design, making sure it will fit on the site, of course, and then I will dimension it before I go and put windows and doors and roofs on, just to make sure that I am happy with the overall size of the rooms and the building. Under settings, we have dimension settings. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is the exterior and interior, how it controls the appearance of your dimensions. These two tabs only have to be set up once, and if you set them up once and save it in your template drawing, then you don't have to worry about coming back here. So with the exterior, we have the option of what we include. I want to include the overall dimensions, and I want to do the projections. I am not interested in doing the openings or the interior walls. I don't have a problem with doing the openings if that's what you want to do to show your brick courses are correct and all that sort of stuff, then that's fine. Interior walls, it will only dimension interior walls where an interior wall intersects an external wall. So the walls that are in the middle of your home somewhere that don't come over to the external wall, it won't project a dimension. So I untick those because I do my interior walls with the auto interior function, and I'll show you that as we get through this lesson. So if you follow this and you're happy with the end result of how I dimension things, then all you have to do is just follow my procedure and you'll be right. The dimension line distances, this line spacing is set to 600. Now in the program settings I mentioned that my grid down here on the bottom, when I engage that, I've got my grid coming on to be 600 millimeters apart. Now I just do that so that I can actually just move my dimensions over a grid line and they're approximately 600 millimeters apart. When it's doing this line spacing here, if I've got multiple rows of dimensions that are going to be in my exterior dimensions, it will space them at 600, so they will be 600 millimeters apart, and it all works out with the way I space them. The next one is the dimension offset. That's set to 600 too. Now what that'll do is that'll set the first row of dimensions around the building off the building at 600. If you want to project that out further, because it might get in the way of your roof or something like that, you might set that to 1200 or 1500 or whatever you want it to be. It'll just pop the dimensions out that distance off the external perimeter wall of your building. Naturally, I can't do anything with the openings here because I'm not dimensioning it, but if I tick that, you'll find that that will highlight, and then I can say, okay, I want it on the center, or I want it to be overall openings, however you want to do it. This extension lines, basically you can see the one that I've highlighted will do my extent lines. Now these extent lines are the little ones that come in towards the building. I like to have all of those in a row like that. I don't want them projecting down to the corners of the building, so that's the way I select that. The end condition, as you can see, I've got the surface for the exterior ticked. So basically if I have that one ticked and that one ticked, I won't get just the overalls. I'll get, in my case, I've got a 220 brick veneer wall. That will give me a 220 dimension, and then the balance between the ends. I don't want that. I just want the overall, so I just leave the outside one ticked. The interior walls can't be selected simply because I haven't got that ticked. Alright. Now coming to the interior, what I do here is I tick both the surface trailing edges and leading edges. I don't worry about the core, because what this will allow you to do is, when we went through the properties of a wall, you're able to add in, 10 millimeters for your plasterboard lining boards. So if I had, if I took that option up and entered 10 millimeters for my linings on my wall, then being ticked the surface leading edge and the trailing edge if it was a 70mm wall plus 10 on both sides, that would give me a dimension of 90mm. If I wanted the 70 and I had my lining boards on, then I'd untick those and tick those two to the core of the wall. So what I do is I don't put my internal linings into the property of the wall, so I actually tick the two outside ones. And for any reason, if I go and change that to any wall on the internal, it will actually just dimension over all the surface and not the core. So I find doing it this way, I end up getting the walls dimensioned the way I want to. So that's the exterior and interior tabs and what you need to do. Up the top you'll notice that I've got a current style button, and beside that it's telling me that the dot dash exterior is my current style. So if I click the current style button, you will find in my database I have 3 dots set up. One for exterior, one for interior, and one for moving the dim up. I've also repeated that with ticks, just that people who do purchase our Australian database, some people prefer ticks rather than dots. I've just left the default one there and the small one there that comes with the program. You might just have the default one, I've just left it, but I've set my 3 up. Now I do have a little bit of difference between the exterior and interior, so that's not much, but it's enough that it does look a lot better if you use them the way I do. So if I right click and edit that dot exterior, it then brings the dimension style properties up. Similar to adding an element, I can have a description, a name for it, and I can click on the tick or the dot hollow and so on. They're the options you've got. So you can see that I've got the dot selected. Now coming down, this might make no sense to you at all, but basically if when we finish this exercise and you like the look of my dimensions, then just follow the numbers that I have in here, because it's a little bit of testing to see what each one does, drawing the dimensions on and seeing if you can accept what they look like. Okay, so you might just need to play around with those a little bit, but if you start off with what I've got in there, 6, 2, 2 and 1, you will find that's a good point to start from, and you'll have a lot tidier dimensions. The next tab in is your leader. I just set my arrow length at 3 and the thickness at 2. I've got a solid arrow coming across to the text. I just have my text style set to 2mm. If I click on that, you will find in the default installation you will have a lot of text styles called different things, like default dimensions. You might have notes, you might have titles, you might have bearings and so on. I've gone away from that and I just tend to have the size of the text that I want. I find that much easier to pass on to people to say, okay, for room names, when we get to that, I do it at 3.5. For my dimensions, I prefer 2mm high text. So that's a lot easier than saying, giving it a name and getting confused. This here, above dimension line, that's the distance that the text will sit above the dimension line. Now, the only difference here is, remember I had a dot exterior, a dot interior and a dot move up. Well, in the dot move up, I've just got that sitting up higher, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. The line styles, well basically you'll see I've got 0.18 continuous. Alright, so I've got that set to the lot, so you can actually grab them and just go and select and then come and set your line weight up that you want. So basically if I go and edit that line style, you'll notice that I've got it set to black and I've got it set to 0.18. So you can do whatever you like and set your line type, set your line weight, click on that to give you the color, and then hit OK. So I've basically got most of my line styles all set to black. I don't like sort of doing too much in color. Alright, so that's 0.18. Hit OK. That's what's in that one. If we move on to the interior one and edit it, you'll notice that I had 6, 2, 2 and 1 in the exterior one. I've got 0, 2, 2 and 1 in here. The rest of it's pretty much the same. So what I do is I say, okay, the dot exterior is my current style because the first thing I want to do is my external dimension. So I set that to be the current one and I hit OK. Now all I have to do is push that button there, which is the auto exterior dimensions. If you haven't got that toolbar out, you can either bring it out or you can go to Tools, Dimensions, Auto Exterior. So as you can see, that's 1 pick, 2 picks, 3 picks. Whereas if I come back here, that's 1 pick. So you can see using the buttons will make it more productive than using the menus up the top. Okay, so now that that's done that, I then move these dimensions out off the building so that I can go and do my internal dimensions. And if you remember in the other lesson where we were doing walls, I said that they are associative. So that what that means is if I go and move a wall or change the room sizes, see how the dimensions change. Okay, so I'll just undo that and get that back. Alright, so once I move them off the walls, I lose that associativity. Alright, so it's not that important, but basically I move these off. How I do that is I turn my grid on. The grid on is set to 600 millimeters apart. I make sure my ortho is on because when I move these, I want to move them in a straight line. I don't want to move them off the walls so they don't line up with the walls. Then I just pick a point anywhere outside the row of dimensions and I'm putting a crossing around that lot of dimensions. You can see I've highlighted that. I right click and go move. Then I can just move those with my ortho on. It'll just go straight and I'll say okay, I want to drop it over that grid line and come across to the other side, put a crossing around that lot, right click and move those out to wherever I want them. I can move them out as far as I like because I can move them back in when I'm finished. Okay, I'll move the bottom ones out, right click, move, drag them down and just come up to the top and move those ones out as well. Now what I want to show you here, if we come into there and if I move this wall, notice the dimensions don't change. It's lost that associativity once I've moved it. Now that's my external ones, just moved out off the building because I want to go and do my internal ones now. So what I do here is I go back to my dimension styles and change the current style from exterior to interior. So now you can see the current style is dot interior. Just a little bit different in the settings, but it's enough to warrant that change. So now I can go to Tools, Dimensions, Auto Interior if you're using the menu, or it's the button there which is Auto Interior. Now I'm going to do the ones going across the screen horizontally first. So basically what I do is I pick that, and even using my grid line to see where it's going through the building, you pick a point outside the building and then drag a line through the building to the other side and then pick another point. And if I just roll in on that, you'll see that it's drawn the dimensions inside the building. That's where I want them to be. I like it this way because it's basically you can see if you've missed anything. So I want to draw a line now that's going to run through those robes there. So if I line up my grid line again, I should be able to just pick a point on the outside, drag through to the left. Please note that I picked on the right side, drag to the left and pick another point. I want one through here to pick up that linen press. I want to pick up one through here. I want to pick up one through there. And that should do me for horizontally. Now what I need to do is I need to move those dimensions to the outside of the building. Now if I just go and try and move those, and actually you can move them one at a time, but that would be a real pain. So basically I need to be able to select them all like this. Now if I try and select that row of dimension, you'll notice when I let go, if I go right click and move, you can see already that the walls are highlighted. So if I drag those down, you see how the walls are coming with it? Well, we don't want that, so we'll just undo that and take it back. This is where you need to start and use your view filter a little bit better. So with your view filter, with elements, now you'll notice that we've got elements on location tab, we've got elements on terrain tab, we've got a notation tab and a framing tab. The elements on location, such as the ground floor, are going to be walls, doors, windows, roofs, ceilings, columns, all those sorts of things. Now it will only build up as you put things in. So with walls, if we hit that cross, we've only got trim and surfaces at the moment. When we put windows and doors in there, they'll fall underneath walls. If I put a roof on, it'll have roofs. If I put ceilings, it'll have a ceiling, and so on. Now with each element, you can display them. Now the displaying is basically with the eye. If I close that eye, it'll turn the walls off. If I hit OK, see the walls are gone. If I go back to my view filter, open the eye up, hit OK, the walls are back there. The thing is, I want to see the walls, but I don't want to be able to pick them. So that's the other option you got under your view filter, is this selection, or the little funnel. So if I touch that funnel, see how it turned it off, and that turned it back on again. So you can either hit the funnel individually, or you can come down here and use the buttons here where it says select all or select none. Well, I want to select none, so it just turns the funnels off. Now this is only affecting the elements on the location. It is not affecting the dimensions which are on the notation tab. So if I hit OK now, and now put a crossing through those dimensions, you'll notice that it'll pick up the dimensions but not the walls. The walls are basically locked, you can't touch them now. So if I just scroll down until I can see those other dimensions, I can now right click, and that row of highlighted dimensions I can then just move down with my ortho on and sit them over a grid line. Come and pick the next row of dimensions, right click, move, pick a point outside the building and just drag straight down, and I'll come up the top and grab that top row of dimensions, right click, move, take them out to the grid line, come and grab, I'll just try and grab, they're pretty close together, right click and move. See how I'm not picking over a line or a wall, I'm picking away from them. And then pick up this last row, right click and move, and drag that up there. Now, fair way off the building, so all I need to do is just grab them all, right click and move, and don't worry about the grid lines, just go and place them wherever you want to. All the grid was for was to actually get them approximately 600 apart. So if I come in down the bottom, grab all of those, move those in to approximately where I want them, and that's done my horizontal ones. Now I want to do my vertical ones. So the first thing I might do is just save it so we don't lose that and have to do it again. So now I want to do my interior ones vertically. So if you remember, doing the horizontal ones, I said go from right to left. Now doing the vertical ones, I'm going to suggest you go top to bottom. So I want a row through there, a row through there, a row through there, a row through there. Now one through there should give me what I want. That should give me one lot, another lot, and another lot. So you should have picked up now that's pretty good being able to see where you're running them to make sure you're not going to miss out on a row of dimensions. So now we just pick up these one by one and right click and move half out one way and half out the other. For that side, we'll see how we go on this side, might need more. Just keep moving them out. One more. Okay, pick them all up, move them in to where you want them, come across to the other end, pick all of those up, right click and move those into where you want them. When you're finished, you can turn your grid off and just roll in, and you'll see that all the dimensions are there and they all should be pretty well spot on and tidy. We'll come up to the top here. I think we've got a few there at smaller dimensions. Now see how that 530 and 70 and 70 are bleeding in. If I highlight that 530, right click and go change style, that's where my third dimension style comes in, which is move dim up, and see how it just pops it up. Alright, so over here where we've got a number of them, if I click on that one and hold my shift button down and click on the other one, I can pick as many as I like. I can do the whole building in one hit if I want to, and go change style, move dim up, hit OK, and it pops it up. Alright, so I should be all pretty well spot on. So there's my dimension floor plan. Now just quickly, I did suggest that when you do your horizontal internals you go from right to left, and when you do your verticals you go top to bottom. If I go the other way, and I'll just do one row here, so I just need to pick one that's I'll go top to bottom, and I'll go through here from bottom to top rather than top to bottom. Right click and finish, and I'll take all of those and just drag them outside the building so we can see them. Alright, now if I roll in close, see how top to bottom has put my extent lines to the pointing to the right. Now if I go bottom to top, you can see all my extent lines are going into the text. Now to me, that's a lot of tidying up to do. I know there's a number of people such as building designers and that are very fussy with their dimensions, but for me, I'm quite happy with that. I think that's a lot tidier and less tidying up to do than this one here. So if I just get rid of that. The issue there is, some people say that there are Australian standards and they should be pointing to the building, but if you do it my way, it's right on one side, but I come across to the other way, see the extents are pointing away from the building. Otherwise, if I did it to what they believe Australian standards are, I'd have to go from bottom to top for my right hand dimensions. It would point those into the building, and therefore my text would be all needing tidying up. So that's the reason I go right to left and top to bottom. Now there's a couple of other options of doing dimensions. You've got a linear dimension, and you've got an aligned dimension, and you've got a room dimension. So a linear dimension will basically, if I go linear and if I pick from that point there, which is the internal corner of that room, take my ortho off, and I come diagonally to the internal top corner of the room, once I've picked it, notice that it will only go horizontal or vertical. Okay, so that's what a linear dimension is. Right click finish. I'll just do that again because basically I might want to say, okay, I want a linear dimension from there to there, and pick it there, and I'm happy with that as a linear dimension. An aligned dimension, if I pick the same points, internal corner of the garage to the, I'll try that again, to the top, that's what that one does. So that will give you dimensions perpendicular to your side boundaries, or dimensions that will be, you know, over all your slab, just to make sure it's square or anything like that, but that will do it on the angle. So this one here, the 800, is a linear dimension. This one here that is on the angle is an aligned dimension. Okay, so I'll just get rid of that one. Now the last one basically is a room dimension. Now what that'll do is, let's come down here into this room. If I click that, I can come down to this bottom corner, to this other bottom corner, and then to the top corner of the room, and then it will bring up text. Remember, I've got a text style set to 2 at the moment. I can click that button and go and pick another size if I want to, but that room is 36 by 36 and it plops it in the middle. So again, I can go from that bottom corner to that bottom corner to the top corner. It'll bring up the dimension hit OK, and it's in there. Alright, so that should help you out with doing the overall dimensions, linear dimensions, align dimensions, and room dimensions. Thank you.